This is a guide for how to create plugins to run with a Papermc server. It's fairly similar to the way you do Spigot plugins, but I haven't found anything online that shows you exactly what to do with Papermc server, which is slightly different, but here we go. I'll be doing this in IntelliJ, but it should be fairly similar if you want to use Eclipse or anything else for that matter. And if we just get that, download, we want the community edition. If you want to change this, then make sure you know what you're changing it to, why you're doing that, and yeah, just be careful. I shan't change that context menu thing. That's basically when you right click in File Explorer. What I did here, that's the context menu, and if you do shift right click, then you get a slightly changed context menu. For example, open PowerShell window here appears. So I will add that to path. That's just a quite useful thing in programming in general. I think that should be good. I'll just do reboot now. Now we have IntelliJ IDE installed. We can go and look at the Papermc docs, papermc.io, and we want to use our API. So if we just minimize this, open IntelliJ, now we want to open a new project and make sure it's not any other, make sure it's Java, Maven, sorry, make sure it's not Java. You want to be Maven, just click next, then I will call this the Falling World plugin, so just Falling World. And then here, I'm going to do me.jdavis.fallingworld. I don't have a company, so that's just what I'm going to stick with. You might do com.google.fallingworld if it was Google doing this. And click finish. And should open up the pom.xml. And now you want to add things according to this bit here. Now you will almost certainly run into issues with this, I think. So there's just a page here where I was a bit confused and created a post on the Papermc forums, and I found the solution, I think. So anyway, if we get in pom.xml, we get a repositories tag, and we also want a dependencies place as well. Dependencies. Then we want to copy repository from that. And then we want to copy the dependency as well. Now it doesn't recognize this because at least for 1.16.5, so I'll change that here as well, it uses something different. It wants to be com.destroystokyo.paper, and I believe that is everything you need to add to the pom.xml. So now to start writing some actual code, you're going to source main Java and we want to do new package. I shall call this me.jdavis.fallingWorld, which you may notice is the same as the artifact ID, and then new Java class, and just call this one main. Because this is a plugin, this main class, it wants to act like a plugin. To be specific, a Java plugin. But it doesn't know what a Java plugin is, so we need to import that. Now there'll be red lines underneath that, and I'll tell you how to sort those out. But for now, we want to override the onEnable method. Public void onEnable. That's not how you spell that. And this should replace the default onEnable, because we want to add our own in. And I shall start that with bucket.getlogger.info. Falling World plugin has started. That's all we're doing for now. This is just saying, or putting to the logs, saying that the Falling World plugin has successfully opened up. Now this currently will not work because I believe this is an issue with IntelliJ IDE. This shouldn't happen if you're using Eclipse. But if you are on IntelliJ and this does happen, you want to go File, Invalidate Caches, make sure both of those are clicked, Invalidate and Restart. Once again, UpToDate Joss is here to correct my past mistakes. I'm doing this on Ubuntu, but it's basically the same as on Windows. And you just go to not Java, Maven, make the same mistake again. Alright, and we want to call it Falling World. Good stuff. And I think that should be good. That should take us to pom.xml, hopefully. And now we want to go and get our stuff from Papermc. Let's use our API. And then just copy this across and put it inside a repositories tag. And then same with dependencies. Previously, I was using 1.16 because 1.17 for paper hadn't been out very long. Whoops. I didn't know if this new group ID, i.e. io.papermc.paper, would work with 1.16 and whether com.destroystokyo.paper would work with 1.17. But anyway, this is the proper one now. So you want to go File and Invalidate Caches. Let's just do that one as well. Invalidate and Restart. Okay, so it's not gone red, but it's not recognizing it. It's saying, what is this? But it is recognizing the stuff it is meant to. That one I think is just a spelling error because it doesn't think Papermc is a word. And I think you're good to go with the rest of the original tutorial with that. And now that's restarted. Oh, no, not quite yet. This should start to colour itself and recognise that it's all working. It shouldn't know what bucket is, and it should raise an issue saying that you haven't imported bucket. And see down here, it's just a small progress bar of how quickly it's gone. There we go, it should all start to colour itself in. and now it doesn't recognize bucket, so we can do import class, which is what I should have been able to do here, apart from I couldn't because it hadn't sorted out the pom.xml with the repository and dependencies. So now that I've done that, it's quite simple if you want to bring something in. Yeah, for example, bucket.getLogger, you need that through org.bucket.bucket, and Java plugin, you need that through org.bucket.plugin.java plugin. So there's one more thing we need now. Now it doesn't do anything, but to see that we're going in the right direction, we want to go into resources. We want to do right click, new file, and that should be called plugin.yml. And then just main describes the entry point, so me.jdavis.fallingworld.name, and name is, I'll just call it Falling World plugin version 0.0.1. Let's give it a description. Every time a player in survival mode moves onto a new block, a column they were previously in gets deleted. API version 1.16 and author Ross Davis. So to go and build your project now, to turn it into a .jar file, you want to go File, Project Structure, and then you want to go into Artifacts, which is just down here, click plus, jar, from modules with dependencies. So you want to leave that all as it is. Then let's try and make this a bit bigger. I want to click include in project build, and then this bit here, that's just where it's going to drop the plugin. So what we could do is go into this one and go into the plugins folder and just nab that and then put it in here. We click apply, and then we only have to do that once per project. So now if we do build artifacts, fallingworld.jar, build, and again there's a progress bar just down the bottom, and that should be completed now. And I shall get Minecraft up on my alternate device, and here it is. Now if I do run.bat and then open up Minecraft while that's loading, we can just run, say, hello, and that runs. We can now do stop, knowing that our plugin works. This doesn't do very much right now, so to remedy that, let's add a player event. So we're going to main Java, source main Java me.fallingworld@jdavis.fallingworld, and then instead of main we want to do player event, and this one implements listener, which is this one. There we go. And that means it's acting like it was blueprinted off the original Minecraft server thing that happens whenever a block is broken or a player walks. Okay, so what I'm going to do is create a list of all the players that have moved, because you want a grace period, I suppose you could say, when you enter the nether or you come out of dimension or something like that, and you just want to make sure that they don't instantly come on to something that breaks their blocks and whatnot. Also, if they're changing dimension, you don't want to erase the portal behind them, so that's just something to look out for, and that's what we're handling here. And import hash map, and this is just a key value pair, so the key is a string, and you put a string into this, and that would be the player's name, and you get out a boolean, which is true or false, saying whether they have moved. And I'm just going to quickly write a function to get a player's name, so I'm going to, that's right, not a function, a method. We're in Java, they're called methods. So private string get player name, what is player? Well, that's org.bucket.entity.player. This will happen quite a bit, and there'll be a huge list of these once we're done. So this uses components and text components, which is slightly different to the way Spigot does it, which, you know, just to confuse things. But we do component player name component equals player dot display name. So this gets the name. It doesn't take it as a string because it could be different colors or bold and things like that, and that can't be just taken in a raw string, so that has to go into a component. And what we can then do with this component is turn it into a raw string by converting it into a text component first, that is. And then with that text component we can do .content, and that gives you the content. Oh, sorry, there we go, wrong variable name. And then we can just return name. That will, because we use the player's name quite a bit in the rest of this with this hash map here, that will make the code a bit easier to write and read. So this next method I'm going to write is an event handler. That means this is run whenever a player move event or a player movement event happens. So player movement, that's not how you spell movement at all, movement event, let's just call that variable event. We want to do string name equals get player name event get player. Oh yes, we need to import that one as well. Don't do that. Have I misspelt something? Ah, it's just player move event. import class. Okay. And then we want to see if they've moved across a block. So if they've just moved from one side of a block to another, we don't want to remove the world from underneath them. So we want to get the location where they've come from equals event.get from, and we want to do location 2 where they've moved to equals event.get to. And then we just want to store those as integers so we can get the block coordinates as opposed to the player's in-game F3 float coordinates. And from x equals from get block x, and oops, int from z equals from .get block z. We don't want the y because they can jump without consequence. Then repeat the same for 2x equals 2.get block x, and int 2z equals 2.get block z. And then I'm just going to pack whether the player has moved into a Boolean value from x not equal to 2x. So that's if the from x is different to the 2x, that means they've changed their x coordinate. So if they've changed their x coordinate or they've changed their z coordinate, that means they've obviously moved and want a column gone. Just to do that, or from z not equal to 2z, and we can just test if has moved. But also we can make a quick check to see if they're in survival. So to check if they're in survival, we do event.getPlayer get game mode equals game mode dot survival. And then we'll just need to import game mode, import class. But also we'll want player has moved hash map, so we want to see if they are in that grace period. Get so only if they've moved before, and if they're in survival, and if they have actually changed their position, do we now start doing things. So now we want to get the world they're in. Import world. I want to put the parentheses around that. There we go. And then I'm sure there's a better way you can fill things. But for now I'm just going to do a for loop, int I equals 0, I less than 256, I plus plus, and this just ranges from 0 to 255, setting all the blocks to air. And this gets the block stored in the location at the player's previous X and Z, and also the Y position as determined by this for loop. And we just want to set that block to where, so if block, get type equals end portal frame, then block dots, oh whoops, I'm just in caps lock, block dot set type material dot add. So this just makes sure that end portal frames aren't overwritten, because to get into the end you have to go over an end portal frame to get into the end portal, so obviously we don't want to screw that over. I suppose we could make an extra list of actual end portal blocks, but you can just hope that players don't jump in their way to the end. And then now that they've moved, we want to do player has moved dot put aim true, and that just ends that grace period. But where does that grace period come from? That comes from public void on change dimension. This is a player changed world event, and we want to do player has moved dot put get player name event dot get player what's wrong with that? Oops. Oh, shut up. Ah yes, we also want to make sure this is an event handler. And we missed out a false. But also when the player logs in, we need to make sure that they're handled for. On player join event. And then we can, just grab this again. And I think that should be it. We will just need to, don't do that. Go into main and let main know that we're using player event to do things. So we want to do plugin manager equals bucket.get server.get plugin manager. There we go. Open close parentheses. And we want to do manager dot register event plural new player event, and we want to let it know that our main class this is the thing that's handling the player event. I forgot to make it an event handler. Build this again, build artifacts, build, watch that build quickly, and it jumps straight into our plugins thing, and we can just do run.bat, open that to full screen, and the hyper alien should join the game very quickly. Here we are, and I can confirm that blocks are disappearing beneath me. Now if I go op the hyperalien, so now my player is an admin. He's just put, well, I've just put myself into creative mode, and yet it's all working as it should. Good stuff. And that's the Falling World plugin working. There we go. Here I am back on Ubuntu. This is more recent JOS, and I've just followed the tutorial before I put the extra edits in, and there we go, I just added all the extra code. That's all good, and I've compiled that into here. So I'm just going to find a command I put in here. It's exactly the same as on Windows, this command, and then right click, open in terminal, and I'll run it there. And this is 1.17, so I'll open Minecraft 1.17. Let's add server, oops, call it local host, this is just a name. And then this one you can put localhost if it's the machine you're running on. And if I log in, should start to see, I've just tested this before, and the world does indeed disappear beneath me. Yeah, right. However, it's quite laggy. Let's see if I can go to creative. There we go. It works fine in creative. And I'm running a mere 3rd gen i7. It's not liking it at all. Alright, that's enough of that. Instead, I shall just stop that one there and play on my laptop. Let's call that one of these days I'll get it right, laptop server, and I think that's 192.168.1.100. let's hope that's right. And this is in a 1.16.5 window. Again, I'm in creative. If I go into survival,